Hello, hello.
Oh,
I'm knitting a fiddlebug, a twiddle muff.
a tweedle muff. What's that? Like,
No, was a request by a nursing home
okay.
to knit and sew onto it buttons and rings and anything that somebody can twiddle with. And then we'll sew it together and make a muff so that they can put both their hands in and twiddle. It's especially for Alzheimer's people
Okay.
that always want to do something.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
my sister and I are getting into this. We are knitting. If I don't knit my blanket, I knit one of these.
Wow. That's amazing.
So that's what I'm doing this time.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I am back at Ankela's house and I'm having coffee with her again. So,
And I also say hello to anyone who wishes to hear my hello.
yes, which I think was a lot of you. We got a lot of responses back from the last video, how much you enjoyed meeting Ankela, and of course it was a huge privilege for me to introduce you to all my friends out on YouTube. So, without further ado, a lot of people asked you questions last time and we've shared them with you and chatted about them. So we'll be answering some of your questions today. Ankela, a lot of people seem to be very interested in your accent and wondered about the German roots of our communities and if you get to speak German a lot. So somebody here said, I have a question for Ankela. Do you speak High German or Swiss German or some other dialect?
Mostly I speak High German.
Okay.
With my sisters, who of course come from the same home as I, we love to speak only German.
Mm-hmm.
I was brought up well, I told you that before, in Paraguay, South America.
Mm-hmm.
And we had fled from Germany to England. That's where I was born, and from England to Paraguay. Our schooling, entire schooling, was in German.
Okay.
And at home we spoke German. My parents spoke the Swiss dialect, the German Swiss dialect, and sometimes to us, but mostly we spoke High German.
Are there a lot of other people other than family that you can speak German with, or?
Mostly in this community, since we are in the United States, it's English.
Yeah.
Most people speak English, but there are also quite a few that speak High German.
Okay.
And I like to speak High German with them. So it's actually quite mixed.
Yeah, and there are also quite a few young people around who speak German too. Like my brother Gavin is taking it in high school. Has he practiced it on you at all?
He is a bit shy about practicing it on me.
Okay, Gavin, if you're watching, better start practicing with Ankela. That's very cool. So, and I was gonna say, when I was a kid, we used to hear you speaking German with your sisters. So I also wanted to learn German just so I could understand what you were talking about, because you always seemed like you were having such a good time.
Yeah, and it's interesting, none of our boys took my accent.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
I don't know, I always wondered, because I never even tried to change it.
Yeah, but you also, I guess, so you had the German influence, you had the English influence, and the Spanish influence.
In later years, the Spanish.
Yeah, so that must also make it sound, it's not really familiar to anyone.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Unique.
Yeah, unique. Beautifully unique, though. So what about your Spanish, though? Do you converse regularly in Spanish, or?
No, I don't have anybody to speak it with, actually.
So sad.
But when we took a visit back to where we came from in South America, I was amazed how easily I could just speak to the people on the street.
That's so cool.
In Spanish.
That's so cool.
It just came right back.
Because you did a college training there, or at least a partial college training down there. Okay. So now about Paraguay. So a lot of people were fascinated by your childhood, what that was like. Somebody here says, I would love to hear about her life in Paraguay and her community there. And then how did you end up in the United States? But we can just start with, I guess you would have been, what, 1 year old when you arrived?
Yeah. Well, we had to leave England. And because Germany was at war with England, and it became very uncomfortable to live in England as Germans. And many of our community members were German. So to the neighborhood, we were a threat, understandably. So we looked for a way out. And the Home Office gave us the possibility, just all of us, move out of England. 300 people.
Wow.
Just imagine.
Because you also had members or new members that were English. So it was English and German pacifists.
We were mixed.
Yeah.
The community was mixed. There were some French people, some Spanish people, many German, English, and even from Morocco.
Oh, wow.
So we were a threat to the neighborhood.
So was there a talk of internment for German members or non-British?
There was.
Okay.
There was. And the threat was always there.
Okay.
Like one example, one of the English members, a sister, she married a German widower. And on the same day of the wedding, the government came and took her into into a camp.
Wow.
Yeah, because with marrying a German, she became German, and they were enemies. You could understand it.
Wow.
So, but that was only for a while, and then they let her go, and she came back home. Wow. But yeah, so we left the community. We found a place in South America where we could settle.
Yeah, and my understanding or my memory is that your father was a kind of looked into places where the community could live.
Yeah.
Is that? Do you want to tell about that at all?
He had an interesting. We had quite a few little Jewish children in protection in our community, and there was one where the mother, who lived by now in Colombia, wanted to connect with her child. So my father and another brother of the community, they traveled with him to North America, to here.
Okay.
And as they landed, they got 3 months permission to be in the country.
Okay.
So they made use of those 3 months to look for a place where we possibly could settle. Well, the little boy was taken on by a nurse of a Jewish organization who connected him with his mother in Colombia.
Okay.
So my father was free to look around, and they had an appointment with the President Roosevelt.
Really?
Now, since he was very busy, Eleanor, his wife, made an appointment with him, and they actually went and had tea with her.
Really?
And told her the dilemma that we were in. We needed to bring all these people out of England. Could we possibly settle here in America?
Wow.
And Eleanor, who was very understanding, thought about it, and then she said, well, my husband is up for re-election, and it would not be too good if he would give permission for 300 pacifists to come into this country. So I have to tell you, it's not possible that you come to America.
That's crazy. I did not realize that.
So,
but
actually,
did she give assistance for us to go anywhere else?
I think she connected us with the ambassador of Paraguay.
Okay.
And he had great understanding, since he had also opened the doors for Mennonites, Mennonite refugees, to enter Paraguay. Paraguay was in great need of a manpower, because they had been through a terrible war.
That's right.
Where they lost many, many men and boys. So they were open to let us in under the same conditions as the Mennonites, that we would have our own school, our own teachers, and would not have to go to military service.
Okay.
So that was exactly what our community needed.
Yeah.
So they gave us permission to come to Paraguay.
Wow, but a completely different landscape,
Yeah.
climate,
Oh, that
diet. That must have been
ev-
crazy.
It was. So we first tried to settle in a location called the Chaco,
Yeah.
and it was just not, there was hardly any water.
Isn't it like a bit like a desert almost?
Yeah, it is. They actually call it the green hell
Okay.
because they have such long, dry times. And
Okay.
in any case, so my father was sent out with a group of other men to look for a more suitable place for big community to.
Yeah. And children.
So they found a place in Alto Paraguay, which is mostly jungle,
Okay.
but also close to a Mennonite settlement.
Okay.
So they bought that. It was called Primavera,
Mm-hmm.
which means springtime, just perfectly actually suited to what we were longing for.
Yeah.
A springtime in mankind's age. And so, but it was all jungle.
Mm-hmm.
I was by that time a little bit over 1 year, and we settled first with the Mennonites because it was summer and the schoolhouses were not in use, so they let us live in the schoolhouses.
Okay.
While brothers went daily into the jungle to build up, and they did. They built up houses.
They built houses and stuff.
Very, very primitive,
Yeah.
but houses. So
That's
I
crazy.
remember still as a child living in like a big shed and partitions between the families with burlap
Wow.
or whatever kind of
Some kind of material.
tenting material or
Wow.
whatever to just divide the family sections.
Wow.
So that's actually how I grew up. But since I didn't remember anything else, and I think our school children even, they were quite excited about that
Yeah.
because we couldn't even think of start school.
Yeah.
And I've heard it from older people that experienced it as children. It was actually quite exciting.
Yeah. But then eventually they must have gone on to building
yeah.
individual houses or
Yeah.
family houses.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we had to learn so much. Like I tell you, one tragedy that happened, tragedy for the brothers. They had made bricks out of clay. Clay was there abundant,
Yeah.
but they did not fire them. So they were just sun-dried.
Yeah.
And they actually started to build a house. They didn't do the roof first. They started with the walls.
Which is
And-
how you do it in Europe, right?
Yeah, and there was a torrential rain in the night. And when the brothers came out in the morning, the bricks all had melted. So there was no
That must have been
house.
so discouraging.
That was so discouraging. So we had to learn everything from bottom up. That
Wow.
you first make the roof, and they were all thatched roofs.
Okay. What
But-
was yeah.
And slowly they developed a good dairy herd,
Okay.
and that was from cows that hardly had any milk. We have some books actually where you could
Okay,
read more about
stories,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So, and what was the food like? Because that must have been, the diet must have been very different than what you're accustomed to.
Yeah, well, the thing is, when you get into a situation like that, you're grateful for anything.
Yeah. Because you were
And-
refugees.
We had no refrigeration, none. So whatever cow or cows that were slaughtered on a Monday had to be eaten literally by Wednesday.
Wow.
So because there was no cooling system to keep, and that's how we lived pretty much from hand to mouth.
Wow.
It was amazing what was developed. At the end of 20 years, we had a beautiful citrus orchard.
Wow.
With grapefruits, different kinds of oranges, tangerines, lemons. We had a good herd of pigs that we could also consume. And then milk.
Did you sell the citrus, or
No.
it was just for?
Everything was just for community use.
Okay. Because it was a pretty big group of people by the end, right?
Oh, yeah.
So everybody traveled from England down, and then people started coming down for the United States
Yeah.
as well. What was or what is your personal anchor for the inner peace and drive to keep dancing through the storm? Basically, how did you manage to do that through what you experienced there?
Well,
because you came of age in Paraguay, right?
Yeah. But it definitely was a living faith. My parents were not they did not push religion on us.
Okay.
But they lived it. Mm-hmm. Like one example I'll tell you, my mother, if she left us in the evening to go to whatever she was going to, she would just stand at the door and point up, get our attention and point upwards, definitely meaning turn your hearts to God and don't waste it with chattering now as you go to sleep. So that in action and we knew that my parents had a faith. And even though, like any teenager, all of us had to go through struggles, I cannot remember ever having doubts about God or Jesus. To me, they were living, but of course, as the years went on, much more in a personal way. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure, because our parents were led through with faith, that also came down to us then.
Yeah, because that's that's the only way they would have survived.
Yeah. Because it is terribly sad. My mother lost her sister in Paraguay because of her heart was in trouble because she was asthmatic and we just did not have the medication to give.
Yeah. And my memory of that story is that your mother then took on all her children, welcomed them into the family and took care of them.
Yeah.
It's amazing. She must have been an incredible woman.
Yeah.
I would have loved to know her, but she passed away before I was born.
Yeah.
So then there's another good question here. So this is kind of like a longish paragraph here that somebody wrote, but I found it interesting, and I hope you can kind of maybe reflect on it a bit. It says, this is a comment from somebody, "It's a rare quality that I've noticed in people of genuine faith, whatever the faith may be, caring without being thrown off by it and not shying away from the natural difficulties and controversies that come with life are skills that seem to be a regular occurrence in the Bruderhof, and I'm impressed. I would be interested to know if it's part of having to flee a lot, or is it part of the general idea from the beginning?" What do you think about that?
Yeah, because we know that togetherness gives strength. Mm-hmm. If somebody experiences something hard, he can always turn to somebody else who will help. Just even to talk about something. Mm-hmm. Like right now, we have a sister that is very sick with cancer. Mm-hmm. And people go there, also children, and sing and visit her. And for her, that is more strength-giving often than sleep. So it just shows that togetherness and carrying a need together unitedly leads instead of pushing apart. It leads together because we are willing to carry a need.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That is a very beautiful thing of community. I also love this question here because I'm very interested myself in what you're going to say about this. If you could speak to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell her?
Thinking of myself as an 18-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
It's a difficult question because looking back, your vision, my vision is 2020.
Yeah.
So I really don't know, except I would have told her, stick to one thing. Don't go back and forth. And the biggest, healthiest way is to make a decision in one direction and stick to it.
Mm-hmm. That's good advice. That's good advice. I like it. Thank you, Ankela. That was very special. It's always good to chat.
Yeah, we'll see you again, and really do welcome all
We do.
all questions.
Every single one of them.
And I'm getting also a few new pen pals.
Oh,
And
that's
I
right.
love to write letters. Just don't mind my spelling because of all the different languages I speak.
I love your spelling.
I don't spell too well.
It's okay, at least you might get a little chuckle out of it. Oh, that's great. Okay, well, we will be spending more time together and hopefully sharing it with all of you. So you can look forward to some more coffee and chats with Ankela and me. So we'll see you next week. Bye.